Good afternoon and welcome to the webinar regarding the Vision Zero program, a new opportunity to offset indirect costs. My name is Alicia Adolph and I'm the Professional Development Manager for the Association of Counties, and thanks for joining us this afternoon. Attendees, before we jump in, just to remind you, you'll get some ILG training hours for this webinar. You also have that chat box to input any comments and questions. And to kick off this webinar, I'm going to turn it over to Ryan Gellner, who you know as the Vision Zero Outreach Program Manager. Good afternoon, Ryan.
Thanks, Alicia, and good afternoon as well. I want to give a special welcome to the 6 counties that are here for this de minimis rate, I guess we can call it, training, and a special thank you to Alicia for helping us set this up. And as Alicia said, the good news is all of you that are looking for ILG hours, you get those, and Alicia will make sure that you are credited with those. On behalf of the Vision Zero program, though, I do want to welcome you, and first of all, I want to thank you. You all have been wonderful partners, some of you for years, some of you are within the first year or two. And the really cool thing about the Vision Zero Outreach Program is all of your counties participating. And I think there is some added benefit to you hosting a coordinator. Those coordinators and the work they do around the region representing your county, hopefully you're hearing the things that I hear about your county and about your coordinator, because that doesn't go unrecognized inside of your region. So first of all, hats off to your coordinator, and secondly, hats off to you for helping us launch this program. As we uncovered that counties may be eligible for this, I'll call it benefit, this de minimis rate coverage based upon the spendings that you have within the grant, we identified that there were some things that counties are doing that you're not getting reimbursed for. Obviously, we can't reimburse office space. Obviously, a lot of your time that you're spending on the grant, even if it's a couple of hours every month to prepare the documents that we need at the end of the month, it's greatly appreciated. But this is a way that we were able to find to hopefully be able to pay back the county for the work that you're doing, for the unpaid work that you're doing within the grant. And so we think it's a wonderful opportunity to be able to do this and get your county back involved. We'll talk about some of the particulars and how we go about it. I think it's very easy, and I think you will all benefit from it. A couple of things before we get started, and then I'll introduce who we have on the call. First thing, if you're an attendee of this, so if you're representing one of the counties, it's set up, you do not have a microphone. So the only way you're able to ask a question is to type it into the chat. The chat you will see off, I believe, to the right side of your screen. Underneath all of the names, you'll see a chat box. You can go ahead and extend that. And then there's a spot to type your message there. So please do that if you have questions throughout. Angie will be the main presenter of this, and she will stop a couple of times to address those questions. We certainly are not going to go the entire hour or hour and 15 minutes that we have scheduled. We're hoping more of like a half an hour or so, but we do want to make it interactive with your questions. So if you have questions, please put them into that chat box, again, on the right side, I think, of your screen. Underneath the names, there is a button that says chat. Just go ahead and push the arrow on that button. It'll extend down and you'll see a spot to type your message here. Go ahead and type your questions and then hit send, and we will address them. With that, let me introduce those of us that have a microphone. Angie, if you'll advance to the next slide. Here we are, myself, and I will be very quiet likely for the remainder of this presentation. Leading the charge, though, will be Angie Wentland. She is the controller at the North Dakota Association of Counties. Angie is my go-to on this program and does a fantastic job managing the program from the financial side. So all of you, I think, know who she is and deal with her directly. She's been instrumental in being able to hopefully launch this de minimis rate with all of you counties. From the Department of Transportation, Sandy Wilson is here, and Sandy will be able to answer any questions from the DOT side of things. And then we brought in the big guns as well from NHTSA. Kara Mueller represents the region and will be able to answer questions from the NHTSA side, as well as Brenda Hahn, who is the go-to at NHTSA and should be able to answer anything that any of the rest of us are not able to answer. So super excited for the people we have on the call. These really are the experts when it comes to the grants and to ultimately getting paid with the grant. So any questions that you have, make sure you ask throughout the presentation, and Angie will get to them as she sees fit. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Angie for the formal presentation. And again, thank each and every one of you for attending this call. Your partnership means the world, and together with the coordinators and yourselves, we are saving lives across the state, and we have the data to prove it. So thank you all. Angie?
Yep, thank you, Ryan. Yeah, and as Ryan said, welcome, and thank you for taking some time out of your day. I know everyone's schedules are very busy. We will keep this fairly concise in terms of answering hopefully all the questions you may have and giving you the guidance to move forward. But if you have questions, like Ryan said, feel free to submit those, and I'll try to periodically at least answer those as the topic arrives or time allows. So we are excited to offer this new opportunities for the Vision Zero counties to be able to recover some of those dollars offsetting indirect costs that you have previously not been able to recover. So we'll kind of talk a little bit about what that means and how that looks as we look at our agenda for today. We'll talk about the de minimis rate and its definition, how it's implemented and calculated, and how you will use that on your vouchers every month, as well as your budgets. We're going to talk about subrecipient monitoring while I've got your attention, as well as Vision Zero grant year timeline and schedule, so you can kind of see how that lays out. We'll talk about some voucher reminders and tips and tricks, as well as showing an example of what I use for my tracking spreadsheet, and also walk through some voucher, I guess, common issues. And then at the end, we'll have questions as well. So we will get started. First of all, as we're talking about de minimis or indirect, we want to point out or maybe clarify for you what direct versus indirect is. I'm going to try to keep this fairly simple, but also hopefully give you enough context so that you can understand it, whether you're in the finance field or you're on the program side or whatever your role is. Direct costs are those costs which are included in your grant budget. So those would be the things you've been reimbursed for since day one, things like salaries, all your benefits, travel, supplies, miscellaneous. So anything that you would have previously broken out into your budget as a line item, those are your direct costs. Indirect costs are things that aren't as easily identified or broken out by a program in any particular office. They're things that are typically incurred for a common or joint purpose. Some examples of those things include office space, utilities, administrative costs, and finance staff. You can see how some of those things, like finance staff, easy for me to understand is that I work for every single program we have internally, but I am not billed directly to any program. So trying to disseminate or determine how much time I spend on any particular program, and then take a portion of my, whether it be office space, utilities, supplies that I use, could be a huge time commitment in terms of trying to come up with dollar amounts if we don't just use something which is a little bit more simpler, which is the direction that we want to head with all of you. So the de minimis rate definition is that it refers to a simplified indirect cost rate that is set at 15% of the modified total direct costs, MTDC, for organizations without a negotiated indirect cost rate. So as long as you've never federally gotten a negotiated indirect cost rate, we can go with this simplified 15% across the board de minimis rate and apply that to your direct costs to determine how much indirect cost dollars you can recover without spending a bunch of money, like I say, to get an indirect cost rate. The de minimis 15% rate, like I just said, applies to modified total direct costs. So again, we're looking at direct things like salaries, benefits, materials, supplies, services, and travel. So you will take all of those items, add them up, and then apply the rate to the total of those. I will give you an example in just a minute. But first, I do want to point out, although this probably does not apply to any of us in the type of expenses we have, I just want to clarify that modified total direct costs would exclude things like equipment costs, capital expenditures, tuition, rental costs. So if you had any of those things that were in a federal budget, if you will, you could not apply the 15% de minimis to those particular expenses. They are excluded items. So I just wanted to point that out, although I don't anticipate that will ever be a Vision Zero expense. I just want to point out that it's not applicable to absolutely every expense that you would have. Also, there is no justification paperwork required to document or claim that 15%. So when you're getting ready and submitting your vouchers, you can just do the 15% calculation, add it in, and you don't need to provide a document or any kind of justification or documentation for that one line item. Here is just a very simple, basic example of what a monthly voucher might look like for you now that we're adding the de minimis. So historically, you've got your salaries. We're just using a round number of $5,000. We've got fringe benefits of about $1,250, supplies submitting of $1,000, and travel of $1,750, just trying to keep this simple. So your total in this scenario, modified total direct costs, would be $9,000. So once you get all of your expenses filled in and you're at that total dollar amount, you will take 15% of that, in this case, $1,350, and then add that on to your modified direct for your total monthly voucher to submit of $10,350. Okay. I kind of mentioned already, but when you're doing your de minimis rate submission, you don't have to document, so we will just use that as your calculation. I will, of course, be doing the math to make sure that that works out to be the amount that you submit, but as long as it does, we will just move forward from there. So manually calculate that amount based on your modified total direct. Make sure it ties out to your monthly amount as well as year to date for accuracy before you submit that for reimbursement. And I'm looking at the chat. I don't see any questions in there. Has anybody got any questions at this point? Or if not, I will just continue to move on. I'm not seeing anything.
It looks like no questions yet, but yeah, don't be shy. Actually, a comment just came in, or a question. I'll just read it for you. When does this come available?
I am just on to that part, so I will answer that right now. Perfect timing.
Thanks, Angie.
Yeah, so this de minimis rate of the 15% will begin with the new grant year, which is 2025 till 2026. And because of the timing of the federal grant year end of September 30th, that will start on October 1st. So your first submission, including the 15%, will be for the October of 2025 voucher for reimbursement. So we've got a few more months until that will kick in, and that will be part of the contract that we work on, or subaward that we work on in the next couple of months here as the budgets are finalized. And then when we get our contract or subaward from DOT, then we will get those out to the counties, and that will be a portion of that grant. So let's see here, for the county 2025-26 budgets, I did want to also clarify, because we requested those from you last month and all counties did submit those. When we got those, because we kind of knew this was on the horizon, we did add in 15% to each of the county budget requests. So for your purposes at this time, you don't need to do anything to alter or edit those budgets. We did that for you in advance. So we are truly ready to roll as far as the grant goes. Kind of onto a sort of unrelated topic, but we want to talk about more while we've got your ear. Some of these will kind of weave in and out with the de minimis, and some will be totally different conversations. So again, if you've got any questions now or throughout, feel free to ask or save them till the end. That works as well.
Angie, there is one question.
Yep.
Would this calculation be added to the spreadsheet we use?
Yes. Yep. So the spreadsheet you use is what I would call your voucher. I will show you an example of that, and we'll kind of walk through that in a little bit, but it will just be another line item beneath all of your other costs, so you can add everything else up, and then there will be the 15% de minimis line in which you will enter the 15% calculation each month. So, yep, good question.
And then Angie,
Yep.
do we send out a new voucher at the beginning of the new fiscal?
Yes.
So that'll be a line item that you physically add to the vouchers. When the counties get it, they'll just have to fill that number in.
Correct. Yep. So once we get the budgets all finalized and we get those subawards ready, which is usually probably in September, not too much before October 1st, it's kind of almost a last minute race to get those all completed. When that contract or subaward goes out to you for signature and return, once we get that back, I will finalize everybody's voucher to be specific to your budget, which will include that new line item. And then for your October submission, early in November, will be the first month that you will use that, but it should be pretty clear at that point what you need to do with what you have in front of you. All right, so because we consider these subawards in terms of the dollars that we are passing through, they get handed down a few times, but we still have to do our diligence in terms of subrecipient monitoring. So NDACO is tasked with monitoring the subrecipients, which are the 6 Vision Zero counties. We have a few different things that we need to do as a result of that, but one, just an FYI, what triggers on your side a single audit, which is a grant audit of federal funds, is if your county has or expends $750,000, sorry, or more per year, and that single audit, as it's called, is a more in-depth audit of federal grant dollars that's typically held in conjunction with your normal financial audit each year. So that will happen. And then if you have any audit findings due to that single audit, which pertain to obviously your federal funds, then NDACO has to do a management decision letter just indicating that we see that you have a finding, that we follow up to see what your corrective action is going to be, and that you're following or improving in that area to correct those finding items, or whatever documentation or whatever was not adequate. So at this time, what we do, due to everybody at this point is considered a low level risk. So we do a desk review, and if ever determined that a higher level of risk is associated with your county, then that could be upgraded to more of an annual site visit as opposed to a desk review. But right now what we do is desk reviews, and the risk factors I've listed there are just a handful of things that would cause us to increase that risk level, such things as inadequate records, unallowable expenses trying to be submitted through, salaries claimed that don't reconcile, no or incorrect documentation, a lack of signature on vouchers, failure to respond, And as an FYI, I've seen none of these things. All of the counties are great to work with and very responsive, and I certainly appreciate that. I know Ryan does as well, but that makes it so much easier for us from a timing perspective. I know sometimes we ask for a quick turnaround on things, and you're very gracious to help us out with meeting the deadlines that are given to us by DOT or I guess the feds. So it's all a work in progress that we work together to get these things completed timely. And I have no concerns, but I just want to point out just to help you understand maybe what things would cause a level shift, I guess. Any questions out there at this time?
Looks like we're caught up with questions so far.
All right, thank you. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit then just overall about the Vision Zero grant timing or timeline, timetable. This might be something maybe you can keep in your records so that it's not a big surprise when the end of May, I all of a sudden email and say by June 15th, we need your budget. Sometimes I don't probably get those emails out to you maybe as quickly or as soon as I should, but this is a pretty standard timeline here, so it's something you can utilize going forward that would help you be able to prepare and set up your own reminders in advance of when you would need these things completed. So June 15th, like I say, is the budget due date, or thereabouts, I should say. The end of the state fiscal year is June 30th. You probably all know that because of my tight turnaround for the vouchers, which we just completed yesterday. So thank you for helping get that one met. Then the end of the grant year is September 30th. And although some of these require a quicker turnaround, we actually extend that deadline out a little bit into November. Just to make sure that we aren't missing anything, because once that grant year is closed, you may not have an opportunity to get reimbursement at that point. So it's important at the end of June, it's important at the end of September, those two periods for sure, to make sure that you do a look back maybe to make sure nothing is missing from previously. Like I say, they could be eliminated from a reimbursement perspective if we miss the hard and fast deadline once we move past particularly the end of the grant year. So something to watch for. And then October 1st, of course, would be the beginning of the next grant year. And that would be when I would be sending out to you the new grant awards, as well as your vouchers for completion, which will have your new budgets and all of that good stuff. December 31st is NDACO's fiscal year. So from our perspective, I want everything cleared up as well from October through December at the December 31st voucher request, because for our financial audit and single audit, which we always have, we want to have as many expenses and all expenses in there as if we can. So that's our internally helpful for us to have the December 30th cutoff and make sure everything is caught up. Okay, anything sitting as questions as I look to move on?
Nope, you're good to go.
All right. So just some reminders. For one thing, the monthly vouchers, make sure that they include all of the backup documentation for the line items. Like I say, except for this de minimis calculation, which we're going to be adding in. Just make a quick swipe through to make sure as you're sending those that the documentation is attached. 95% of the time that is the case, but just a reminder as we're on the line here. Also regularly analyze your expense and your remaining dollars for each line item. It can help you identify early any budget revisions that may need to be necessary. I know we just finished June, so it's a good time to kind of look at your budgets through the rest of this year, through the next 3 months, and make sure you're good to go through September. and we'll kind of talk about what the process is if you think something might not be quite enough dollars. So I'll talk about that in a minute, but before you get to a month when you have to overexpend, we want to get a revision request prior to that so that we can have that approval before you make any additional payment or expenses in any of those lines and would have to show a negative amount. So from your perspective, when this happens, say you look ahead and you determine something's not sufficient in any one line, the process you would follow would be to email Ryan, signify the requested amount of funds you want to move and also from which line item to another. So it can be as simple as we're going to be short in the travel line, and so we would like to move $1,000 from our supplies to our travel to get us through the year, just something simple like that. So just make sure that's sent, and then wait for confirmation or approval to implement those changes in your budget lines and to make those additional expenditures. So again, not overexpending any line until you have the approval of funds being moved from one item to another. Then once you get that approval, we will send you an updated voucher. So if Ryan doesn't send you one, ask me for one or have him ask me, whatever works. But I will update a voucher then to reflect those budget changes and send it your way for use on future months. All right, kind of generally speaking then, I'm going to go through a few other items. If you ever have a question or you're ever doubting if an expense might be allowable or something is a little bit unusual, reach out to Ryan anytime. Prior communication and approval are key, and that will help us make sure we move forward in the right direction prior to doing something that we shouldn't do. Previously, we had provided a checklist for completion of our monthly voucher. And that document contained answers to many common questions in terms of the travel voucher piece or what kind of documentation might be required. If you don't recall seeing that or want another copy, I can definitely send it your way. But that's something that we have prepared and I think sent it out before. And so as we're talking about that, some voucher tips or maybe common things that I want to point out while again I have your attention are primarily in the travel area. Just to make sure that departure and return times are indicated on the travel vouchers as well as the purpose of the trip, the destination. If it's an out-of-state trip, use the GSA website to get the meal allowance rates. And then also a reminder that travel vouchers should be signed. One unrelated or other thing that's kind of a common question, particularly at the end of any grant period or the state fiscal year, is that for supplies, which you order, for example, right before the end of the state or fiscal year, they will be billed or should be billed based on the date of delivery. So if you ordered something on June 28th, but it wasn't delivered until July 2nd, that should not follow on your June bill, it should fall on July. So it's based on delivery or arrival date. All right, I'm going to show you a couple examples after this slide, but first, I'll just kind of mention a few things. So keeping a tracking spreadsheet is helpful in tying out the expenses overall for each budget line item from month to month and also making sure your year-to-date numbers are correct as you fill them in on your voucher and that it gives you a clear picture as well in terms of what dollar amount per line item you have remaining. So I would recommend that if you haven't done something like that, that you do. And again, I'll show you that on the next slide. Yeah, it just kind of helps making sure accuracy is kind of followed forward and if there's an error that is caught sooner rather than later. And then on the voucher itself, the most common mistake that I see is bringing forward those prior monthly amounts into the total expended column, which throws off the entire coming forward amount. I'll walk through that in a minute. And then just a reminder to sign that voucher before scanning and submitting it. So first of all, this is what I use internally for tracking of our Vision Zero grants. Like I say, it's kind of helpful to have something that has the 12-month period in it so you can see, number one, a comparative from month to month. Am I charging more or less than I did before? Does this look right? Am I on track? So for this example here, I'm showing you October, November, December of 24 for this scenario. Expenditures for all of these items: salaries, benefits, cell phone, supplies, travel, miscellaneous, and then the de minimis. I'm building this in so you can kind of see what this looks like, even though it's like a year early for this. But so if this was my December submission, my voucher would have the December column amounts in it. But when I get to the bottom, if my year-to-date amount doesn't tie to this $40,796.25, I know I have a problem. So that's where it helps me keep something like this tracking spreadsheet, is what I kind of call it, to look back and also to look forward and to see that last column, which I've added as well, which is the remaining balance, and then kind of go, okay, if I've got 9 months left or 3 months left and I divide that by the 9 months or the 3 months, does it seem like the average of that will be enough to get me through the rest of the grant year? So I can forward this to you if you find it interesting. You can just reach out, but it's just something that I've found valuable. So what you'll do in this scenario for your de minimis is you'll enter all of your other expenses. You'll get to this 15% line, and I just have mine auto calculate 15% of all those line items above it, so it's never incorrect, but then have a double check on the right hand side to also make sure that my math isn't wrong or that the formula isn't messed up. I guess I'm a check and double check type of person. That's probably my finance nature. But so this is my tracking spreadsheet. And then I just want to touch a little bit on the voucher, which I know you are all very familiar with. But that side on the right there, the do this first, it's imperative that that is done, obviously moving your prior total expended column over, and then it will calculate in your new cost or the monthly cost to give us a newly correct dollars expended. So for this scenario, what you'd want to do in the do this first column, let's say we're doing our December voucher from here, is you'd want to make sure that your November totals to the prior month, November 2024, last line there of the $24,955. And if your prior or before area doesn't tie to that, then your new cost amount for the month of December, for example, will not end up getting you your correct dollar expended to come forward. So anyway, that's kind of where my tracking spreadsheet kind of helps me move back to move forward and make sure that nothing is missed along the way. So really that's all I've prepared in terms of giving you the tools to implement the de minimis rate, when that's going to happen, as well as how to implement it, that I'll help you do that. We've already included it in your budgets, and that it will roll forward with your budget in September for October, which I will be reaching out once we're ready for that. And then your new voucher will reflect that as well. So I guess we are always here to help. You can contact Ryan or myself at any time with questions or any concerns or thoughts you might have. I would be open for any questions or any other discussion of other items as well would be fine.
Okay, thanks so much, Angie. What a great presentation. Yes, last call for any comments, questions. I know an individual did send a message that she would like the spreadsheet, and I emailed that to you, Angie, so you'll get that message there.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. As we're waiting for just any last comments or questions, I think we can just maybe turn it back to any closing comments or any last thoughts you want to leave them with.
I think I'm good. I don't know if Ryan has anything else or if I've made him think of anything he'd like to add, but I think this is all I can think of.
I do not have anything else. However, I do want to give an opportunity for DOT or for NHTSA to let us know if, in their opinion, we missed anything or anything that else they would like covered since we have the audience. Sandy, I see you're open.
Yep, it was a great presentation, Angie, and I think you covered it very well. There isn't anything there. The only thing did the single audit threshold, did that move to $1 million instead of the 750?
I believe that would be effective, I think, for next year. So my thinking was that for this first year, it is 750. At least that was what my research showed me. So for the next grant year, it will be $1 million, I believe. Yep. Thanks, Sandy.
Okay. No, otherwise, everything is great, yeah, and I thought you went through it very clearly and did make it, simplified it very well. Thanks, Angie.
Yeah, thanks again, Angie. A lot of nice comments coming in, just super excellent webinar, very helpful. One last question, Angie, can they get a copy of your slides? Are you willing to share your PowerPoint?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, and I can get that to all attendees. You'll hear from either Ryan, Angie, or I. One of us will get that to you all for sure. And if anyone else has requested a copy of the spreadsheet, I see some, I'll email Angie as well. So gosh, I think on that note, we can wrap up. And thanks to all of you for taking the time to join us this afternoon, and have a great rest of your day. Take care.
Yeah, thank you.